this is an actual reader question. Why are so many books so mediocre?
Ooh.
Just stop me when you get to the one you want to answer.
We can actually talk about that. I think it's a fascinating question.
Let's do it.
I mean, I don't know what they mean by mediocre. Did they add any context?
No. That was literally the entire email.
Let's do it.
And there's times
I feel like that was a comment in the promo question.
I wish. I know. Yeah, it was kind of like I too was like, are you just complaining? But then most questions are 2 pages long, and then I boil it down to like the 2 sentences. That's actually the question.
All right, yes. Shall we do it in form?
Sure. Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Ellie Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
So, Jane Friedman of the Hot Sheet, why are so many books so mediocre?
This is a reader question. Thank you, reader.
Well, I would argue that most books over most of history have been mediocre. Like, this is the rule rather than the exception. And it's amazingly hard to write a high quality book. It is so hard. It's hard to do it as an author on your own. It's hard to do it when you're collaborating with an editor. And even when everything is going right, putting together a decent book is no small task. So sometimes I just don't think people appreciate how difficult it is. So to even produce a mediocre one, you're not doing too bad in my book. Okay, but let me put that aside and just talk about writing for a quality that serves the reader. Did the reader get what they wanted out of it? And are you measuring something that wasn't meant for you? So I'll give a very specific example. I just ran an interview at my site with Matthew Bounds. He's a TikTok personality who self-published 2 cookbooks. And at the end of the interview, he says, as encouragement to other people, just get it out there. Like, it's doing you no good sitting on your computer. Just publish it. Yeah, it's going to have errors in it. You're going to hear from people who didn't get pages 72 and 73 because Amazon didn't print them. You're going to forget that you didn't do this or that, but you should still do it. And so he sold more than 100,000 copies of these 2 self-published books so far. And he admitted in the interview that the first book is full of errors because he used a very specific service who turns around a book in basically 6 weeks. So from start to finish, from you should write a book to book in reader's hands, 6 weeks. And they didn't do any copy editing or proofreading. He's upfront about it. And so when I shared this interview on LinkedIn, and I think it has a little bit to do with it being on LinkedIn, I got some responses of people pushing back, like, really? You're encouraging people to do books with errors in them. Moreover, you're encouraging people to put out cookbooks where recipes might have errors and people are, cooking subpar meals, I suppose. And, I am not advocating that people put errors in their books intentionally or that they rush things or that they do a poor job, but if you go to the reviews on his books, it's like 4.9. His ratings are better than mine, which went through the University of Chicago Press, through multiple rounds of fact-checking and copy editing and the whole 9 yards. He is doing better with his people, with all of the errors, than I am doing with mine, and the highest standards applied, in my opinion, as high as you can get. University press level.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
I come from punk rock, and this is the mentality where you're like, you do it because if you don't do it, it's never going to happen. And you do it with like accepting its blemishes. And then, I mean, I will say the awkward part is like sometimes when you correct the blemishes later, people complain about that too.
Yes.
But you know, so it goes. I mean, so I'm completely on board with this. This is fantastic. Like, because and on another level, what I see every single time when an author comes to us and says, I wrote the book, I've edited it to the nines, it's finished, and you know, we've done 54,000 rounds of editorial on it, it's perfect, and then you read the book and it like fails to uphold any value proposition or like tell you why you
but it
care.
has perfect grammar and spelling.
Yeah, it's like they've polished it in every wrong way. So like that's the other reason why I'm like, it's just like fast and dirty. I'm completely on board.
Yeah.
When we hire new people, especially in our editorial department, they sometimes have a lot to get over when they write.
Because yeah,
what our
we're
values
like
are.
we're coming from that value system where we're like, there are going to be typos in the book.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like
They feel physical pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But-
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead because I'm going to digress a little.
We get reader mail also that's like, hey, I got this book and there were like 3 typos in it. If you need a proofreader next time,
Yes.
I'm available.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
you're like, you don't understand the kind of deadline this was created.
Yeah.
You know, like you reading it casually is very different.
There have also been eras where we did employ readers as volunteer proofreaders, though, before we sent things to print or after.
Yeah, I think the self-publishing community gets this more than anyone. You know, the level of quality you need to achieve and then just moving on to the next thing. And if it really matters, I do see them go back and change things or revise or update or relaunch or whatever if they feel like, okay, I really stepped in it and I need to fix it.
We do this all the time too. I mean, and like I think one of the things that Joe told me when I first started that really stuck with me and still causes our new editors physical
It's going to
pain.
embarrass me.
No, is that like it's relatable. Like it levels the playing field. It makes takes us off our pedestal. It reduces the power differential between us and our readers, and it makes them feel like they could do it too.
Yeah.
Maybe that they could do it better than us.
Probably.
Which is kind of what we're going for and everything.
Yeah.
Is like you could do this too.
I made a film 20 years ago actually, and it's like a book or a film about writing. And at one of my screenings, somebody came up to me immediately afterward and was like, the quality of your production makes me feel like I could make a movie. And I was like, thank you. And you know, and this is before like iPhone cameras and all this. It was like a moment where I was like, you know, but then it's like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that is the point, is like you can do it too.
Yeah, and I bet that's why like a lot of these cookbook authors feel so connected to his work and so loyal to his work, is because they were like, we were in it together. We did this in 6 weeks.
Yeah, they do feel invested. Absolutely. Speaking of TikTok, there was an agent recently. This is Kate McKean of Agents and Books, who wrote a post about, should I be on TikTok? This is an issue that I sometimes think about, just because with book publishing, like so many fiction sales are driven by TikTok. And also you know that there's misinformation there, and you're kind of like, I have expertise and I feel like I need to help combat it. The misinformation I know is circulating. In any event, when she posted about it, she kind of gave this impression that she felt like it required maybe more finesse or polish than she was willing to put in. And then the comments came back with, no, you don't need polish or finesse. It's actually people there really value something that feels real or authentic. And so I'm just thinking on a broader, maybe trend level or societal level, I think because so many things are highly polished, sometimes, at least online, I can't speak for books necessarily, but I do think it's partly true there, that we just feel like if it's too slick, we don't trust it. And if it looks like it came from a real person, maybe we trust it more. But there's something in me as like the authority or the expert that bristles at that a little bit. But I think it just, again, it goes back to who you're trying to serve.
I mean, and I wish I could remember who said this. I think I read this somewhere recently. Like when you're discussing, I think it was in Anne Helen Peterson's culture study blog, either her or one of her commenters was like talking about like, what is a good book? And the question is, good at what?
Yeah.
You know, so like what you might call a mediocre book, it's like mediocre at what?
Yeah.
Like if so long as it's good at what it needs to be good at, it doesn't need to fit a different standard.
Yeah, that's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
on Twitter at microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at microcosm_pub,
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.